The helicopter blades cut through the thick Afghan air like a knife through butter. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen pressed his face against the small window, watching the rocky terrain blur past below. The mountains looked like broken teeth against the dawn sky, and somewhere down there, his team was waiting for extraction. 2 minutes out, the pilot's voice crackled through the headset. Marcus checked his medical kit one more time, running through the supplies in his mind. Morphine, bandages, surgical tools, blood-clotting agents. Everything a Navy SEAL medic needed to keep his brothers alive in the field. The mission had gone sideways fast. What started as a simple reconnaissance had turned into a firefight when Taliban forces discovered their position. The team had been pinned down for 6 hours in a small village, taking heavy fire from multiple directions. The radio chatter had been desperate, urgent calls for medical support echoing through the static. "Chen, we need you down here now. We've got wounded," Lieutenant Rodriguez had said over the comm, his voice tight with stress. "And we've got a civilian casualty, female, approximately 25 years old. She's hurt bad." Marcus had grabbed his gear without hesitation. In his 3 tours of duty, he had seen enough wounded civilians to know that every second counted. The rules of engagement were clear. Protect innocent life at all costs. It didn't matter if you were American, Afghan, or from anywhere else in the world. Blood was blood, and pain was pain. The helicopter touched down in a cloud of dust and debris. Marcus jumped out before the skids fully settled, his medical bags slung across his shoulder. The sound of gunfire echoed from the village ahead, punctuated by the sharp crack of sniper rifles from his team's positions. "Over here, Doc!" Petty Officer Williams waved him toward a small stone building at the edge of the village. The walls were pocked with bullet holes, and broken glass crunched under Marcus's boots as he ran across the courtyard. Inside the building, the SEAL team had set up a defensive position. Sergeant Thompson was at the window with his rifle, scanning for targets. Corporal Davis sat against the wall, pressing a field dressing against a wound on his arm. And in the corner, Lieutenant Rodriguez knelt beside a figure wrapped in a blood-stained blanket. "What's the situation?" Marcus asked, dropping to his knees beside the wounded woman. She was unconscious, her face pale beneath streaks of dirt and blood. Her dark hair was matted with dust, and her breathing came in shallow, rapid gasps. "Found her in the building when we took cover," Rodriguez explained. "Looks like she caught shrapnel from the initial blast. She was conscious when we first got here, but she's been out for the last 20 minutes. Marcus pulled back the blanket and immediately assessed the damage. There was a deep laceration on her left arm, bleeding steadily but not arterial. More concerning was the way she held her right side, possible internal injuries from the blast. Her clothes were torn and dirty, typical civilian clothing for the region. "She say anything when she was conscious?" Marcus asked, already reaching for his medical supplies. "That's the strange part," Williams called from his position at the door. "She didn't speak Pashto or Dari. Sounded like she was trying to say something in English, but it was too quiet to make out." Marcus frowned, but focused on his work. He cut away the torn fabric from her arm, revealing the full extent of the wound. The shrapnel had torn through muscle but missed the major blood vessels. He could work with this. "I need better light," he said. Davis immediately moved to shine his flashlight on the injured woman, while Marcus irrigated the wound and began cleaning out debris. She stirred slightly at his touch, but remained unconscious. "How's she looking, Doc?" Rodriguez asked, his eyes constantly moving between Marcus's work and the windows where his men kept watch. "She'll live, but I need to get this bleeding stopped and check for internal injuries," Marcus replied, his hands working with practiced efficiency. "The arm wound isn't too bad, but I'm worried about possible abdominal trauma." He gently palpated her abdomen, checking for signs of internal bleeding. Her pulse was rapid but steady, blood pressure low but not critically so. As he worked, something caught his attention, a small tattoo on her wrist, partially hidden by dried blood. It looked like numbers, but he couldn't make them out clearly in the dim light. "Rodriguez, we need to move soon," Thompson called from the window. "I'm seeing more movement on the ridge. They're repositioning for another assault." "Copy that. How much time do you need, Doc?" Marcus was already applying pressure bandages to the arm wound. "Give me 5 more minutes to stabilize her, then we can move. But she needs proper medical attention soon." He reached for his IV kit, finding a vein despite her dehydrated state. The saline would help with the blood loss and shock. As he inserted the needle, her eyes fluttered open for a moment. She looked directly at him, her gaze surprisingly focused despite her condition. "American?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Marcus nodded. "Yes, you're safe now. We're going to get you out of here." Her lips moved as if she wanted to say something more, but her eyes rolled back and she lost consciousness again. Marcus secured the IV line and gathered his equipment. "She's stable for transport," he announced. "But we need to get her to a proper medical facility within the hour." Rodriguez was already on the radio, calling for immediate extraction. The sound of approaching helicopters filled the air as Marcus carefully lifted the wounded woman. She was lighter than he expected, almost fragile in his arms despite the strength he could see in her build. The team moved out in formation, Thompson and Williams providing cover, while Davis helped Marcus carry their patient to the landing zone. The dust cloud from the helicopter rotors provided some concealment as they loaded her into the bird. During the flight back to base, Marcus continued monitoring her vital signs. Her pulse remained steady, and the bleeding had stopped, but something nagged at him. The way she had asked if he was American, the clarity in her eyes despite her injuries, the tattoo on her wrist, it all seemed somehow significant. "Base, this is Rescue 1. The pilot's voice came through the headset. "We have one urgent surgical case, female civilian, ETA 15 minutes. Marcus looked down at the woman in his care. Her face was peaceful in unconsciousness, but there was something about her features, something familiar that he couldn't quite place. Whatever her story was, he was determined to make sure she survived to tell it. The field hospital at Bagram Air Base buzzed with controlled chaos. Medical personnel moved quickly between beds, their scrubs stained with the evidence of another difficult day in Afghanistan. Marcus walked alongside the gurney as they wheeled the wounded woman into the emergency treatment area. "What do we have?" Dr. Sarah Mitchell asked, falling into step beside them. She was the chief trauma surgeon, a woman in her 40s who had seen more combat injuries than most soldiers. "Female, approximately 25, caught in an explosion," Marcus reported. "Significant laceration to the left arm, possible internal injuries. She was unconscious for most of transport, but briefly responsive. Vitals have been stable." They moved her to an examination table, and Dr. Mitchell immediately began her assessment. Marcus stepped back to give the medical team room to work, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about this particular casualty. "Nurse, I need a full trauma panel, type and cross-match for 4 units, Dr. Mitchell called out, "and get X-ray down here for a complete series." As the medical team worked, Marcus noticed Lieutenant Rodriguez approaching. The team leader's face was grim, and he carried a tablet with him. "Doc, we need to talk," Rodriguez said quietly, pulling Marcus aside. "Command wants a full debrief on the civilian casualty." "Standard procedure," Marcus replied, though he sensed there was more to it. Rodriguez shook his head. "Not exactly. Intelligence is asking questions about her. Apparently the village where we found her wasn't supposed to have any civilian population. It was abandoned months ago according to local sources." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe she wasn't just in the wrong place at the wrong time," Rodriguez said. "The timing of her presence there, right when we were conducting our operation, it's raising flags." Before Marcus could respond, Dr. Mitchell called him over. "Sergeant Chen, I need you to look at something." He approached the examination table where the woman lay unconscious, now properly cleaned and under bright hospital lights. Dr. Mitchell was examining the tattoo on her wrist that Marcus had noticed earlier. "You're trained in field identification, right?" Dr. Mitchell asked. "Look at this marking." Marcus leaned in for a closer look. Under the hospital lights, the tattoo was clearly visible, a series of numbers in a specific font that made his blood run cold. He recognized the format immediately. "Those are military service numbers," he said quietly, "but not American format." Dr. Mitchell nodded. "That's what I thought too. But there's something else." She lifted the woman's shirt slightly, revealing another marking on her ribs, a small scar in a distinctive pattern. "Surgical scar," Marcus observed. "Medical procedure of some kind?" "More than that," Dr. Mitchell said. "I've seen this type of scarring before. It's from removal of a tracking device or implant, the kind used by intelligence services for their operatives." Marcus felt the room grow quiet around them. He looked at the woman's face again, studying her features more carefully. High cheekbones, athletic build despite her slight frame, calloused hands that spoke of weapons training. "Rodriguez!" Marcus called out, his voice tight. "You need to see this." The lieutenant approached, and Marcus pointed out the markings and scars. Rodriguez's expression grew increasingly serious as he examined the evidence. "Dr. Mitchell, I need you to step away from the patient for a moment," Rodriguez said. "This is now a security matter." The doctor looked confused but complied. Rodriguez immediately got on his radio, speaking in low, urgent tones to base command. Marcus could only catch fragments of the conversation, but words like potential hostile operative and immediate containment sent alarm bells ringing in his head. "Sir, with respect, she's still a patient," Marcus said. "Whatever she might be, she's wounded and needs medical attention." Rodriguez ended his radio call and turned to Marcus. "Command is sending a security team. Until they arrive, nobody else approaches her without clearance. That includes medical personnel." "That's ridiculous," Dr. Mitchell interjected, returning to the conversation. "I have a patient who needs surgery, and you're talking about security protocols?" "Doctor, this woman was found in a supposedly abandoned village at the exact time and location of a classified military operation," Rodriguez explained. "The probability of that being coincidence is essentially zero." Marcus looked down at the unconscious woman. Her breathing was steady, but her face showed signs of pain even in unconsciousness. Whatever she might be, enemy agent, friendly operative, or genuinely unlucky civilian, she was still a human being in need of medical care. "The arm wound needs attention regardless of who she is," Marcus said firmly. "And if she has internal bleeding, waiting could be fatal." Rodriguez considered this for a moment. "Fine. Do what you need to do medically, but she stays under guard. And Doc, if she wakes up, you don't say anything to her about what we've found. Not until we know more." Marcus nodded and returned to his patient. As he worked to properly clean and dress her arm wound, he found himself studying her face more intently. There was something familiar about her features, something that nagged at the edge of his memory. The security team arrived 20 minutes later, led by a stern-faced woman in civilian clothes who introduced herself only as Agent Collins from military intelligence. She immediately took charge of the situation, ordering additional guards posted and restricting access to the treatment area. "Has she regained consciousness at all?" Agent Collins asked Marcus. "Briefly, during initial treatment. She asked if I was American, that's all." Agent Collins made notes on a tablet. "Did she show any signs of recognizing you or the other team members?" "No, nothing like that. She seemed confused, disoriented from the injuries." "Sergeant Chen," Agent Collins said, her voice taking on a more serious tone, "I need you to understand that this situation may involve national security. Anything you've observed about this individual needs to be reported immediately." Marcus felt torn between his medical oath and his duty as a soldier. He glanced at the woman on the table, noting how peaceful she looked despite everything swirling around her. "There is one thing," he said reluctantly. "When I first saw her face clearly, I had a feeling I'd seen her before. Can't place where or when, but something about her seems familiar." Agent Collins leaned forward with interest. "That's significant. I'm going to show you some photographs. I need you to look carefully and tell me if any of them match what you remember." She pulled out a folder and spread several surveillance photos on a nearby table. Marcus studied them carefully, comparing the faces to the woman lying unconscious nearby. Most were clearly different people, but one photo made him stop. "This one," he said, pointing to an image of a woman in casual clothes walking through what appeared to be a Middle Eastern marketplace. "The bone structure is similar, but she looks different," Agent Collins finished. "Healthier, better fed, different hair color and style." Marcus nodded. "If it's the same person, she's lost weight and changed her appearance significantly." Agent Collins gathered the photographs. "Sergeant, what I'm about to tell you is classified. The woman in that photograph is believed to be Captain Elena Vasquez, a former U.S. Army intelligence officer who disappeared 18 months ago during a covert operation in Syria." Marcus felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "Disappeared? What kind of operation?" "The kind that officially never happened," Agent Collins replied. "If this is indeed Captain Vasquez, then we have a much bigger problem than a wounded civilian. Because according to our last intelligence, she was believed to have been captured and possibly turned by enemy forces." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. If this woman was a former American operative who had been compromised, then everything about their current situation took on a completely different meaning. Her presence at the site of their operation might not have been coincidence at all. The woman's eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the harsh fluorescent lights of the secure medical facility. Marcus sat in a chair beside her bed, having volunteered for the first watch. Agent Collins had insisted on round-the-clock monitoring in case she regained consciousness. "You're awake," Marcus said gently, leaning forward. "How are you feeling?" She turned her head toward him, her eyes focusing with surprising clarity for someone who had been unconscious for nearly 8 hours. "The American medic," she said, her voice hoarse but steady. "You saved my life." "Just doing my job," Marcus replied, studying her face carefully. Now that she was conscious and alert, the resemblance to the photograph was unmistakable. "What's your name?" A shadow crossed her features. I'm not sure that's a safe question to answer." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "Why wouldn't it be safe?" She struggled to sit up slightly, wincing at the pain in her ribs. "Because depending on who you are and who might be listening, the wrong answer could get both of us killed." The honesty in her voice caught Marcus off guard. Most people in her situation would have stuck to a cover story or claimed memory loss from the injuries. Instead, she was acknowledging that there was danger in the truth. "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a Navy SEAL medic. You're in a secure facility at Bagram Air Base." She studied his face for a long moment. "You have kind eyes, Marcus Chen, but I can see the questions behind them. You figured out that I'm not just another civilian casualty." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened, and Agent Collins entered with Lieutenant Rodriguez. The woman on the bed tensed visibly when she saw them. "Good, you're awake," Agent Collins said, pulling up a chair. "We have some questions for you." "I'm sure you do," the woman replied, her voice becoming more guarded. "But first, I need to know something. How much do you know about Operation Nightingale?" Agent Collins and Rodriguez exchanged glances. Marcus saw surprise flash across the intelligence officer's face. "That operation is classified," Agent Collins said carefully. "How do you know about it?" The woman smiled sadly. "Because I was the lead intelligence officer for Nightingale." Captain Elena Vasquez, U.S. Army Intelligence, serial number 25-7854-392. The silence in the room was deafening. Marcus felt like he was watching a movie where all the pieces suddenly clicked into place. Agent Collins leaned forward, her expression intense. Captain Vasquez was reported missing in action 18 months ago, she said, presumed captured or killed. The reports were partially accurate, Elena said. I was captured by a Syrian intelligence cell working with ISIS. They held me for 14 months. Marcus saw her hands trembling slightly as she spoke. Whatever she had endured during those months was written in the careful way she held herself, the hypervigilance in her eyes. 14 months, Rodriguez said. That's a long time, long enough for someone to be turned. Elena's eyes flashed with anger. Long enough for someone to be tortured, yes. Long enough to watch good people die because of intelligence failures. Long enough to learn things about enemy operations that could save American lives, but not long enough to forget who I am or where my loyalties lie? Then how did you escape? Agent Collins asked. And what were you doing in that village? Elena was quiet for a long moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. I didn't escape alone. There were others, CIA operatives, British SAS, even some local assets who had been feeding information to coalition forces. We've been working together for the past 4 months, gathering intelligence on a major terrorist operation planned for this region. She gestured toward her injuries. The village wasn't abandoned. It was being used as a staging area by the same cell that held us captive. When I learned about your team's reconnaissance mission, I realized you were walking into a trap. Marcus felt his blood run cold. You knew about our operation? I've been monitoring military communications in this sector for weeks, trying to find a way to make contact with American forces without getting shot as a suspected insurgent, Elena explained. When I intercepted the mission briefing for your reconnaissance, I knew the intelligence was wrong. That village wasn't empty. It was full of hostiles waiting for exactly this kind of operation. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair, processing this information. So you went there to warn us? I went there to do whatever I could to keep American soldiers from dying, Elena said firmly, even if it meant exposing myself and risking my own life. Agent Collins was taking notes rapidly. Can you provide intelligence on the terrorist cell's operations? I can provide you with locations, names, planned operations, weapons caches, and communication networks, Elena said. But I need something in return. You're not in a position to make demands, Agent Collins replied. Elena's expression hardened. I'm in a position to save hundreds of American lives. The operation they're planning will target a convoy of school buses carrying the children of coalition personnel. It's scheduled for next week. The room fell silent again. Marcus saw the impact of her words on Rodriguez and Agent Collins. Children of military personnel. That made it personal for everyone in the room. What do you want? Agent Collins asked. I want extraction for the other prisoners who are still in the field, Elena said. 3 CIA officers and a British operative. They're in immediate danger because of my presence here. The enemy will assume they've been compromised. Rodriguez stood up. We'll need to verify your identity and your intelligence before we can authorize any extraction operations. I understand, Elena said. But while you're verifying, people are going to die. Both your people and mine. Marcus watched the exchange, struck by the complexity of the situation. This woman had risked everything to warn them about an ambush, had spent over a year in enemy hands gathering intelligence, and was now asking them to trust her with the lives of other operatives. There's something else, Elena said, looking directly at Marcus. During my time in captivity, I learned about planned attacks on medical personnel. Field medics like you are being specifically targeted because treating them successfully disrupts enemy morale. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. They're targeting medics? They've identified you by name, Sergeant Chen. Your reputation for keeping wounded soldiers alive has made you a high-value target. That ambush in the village, you were the primary objective, not the reconnaissance mission. Agent Collins looked up sharply from her notes. What are you saying? I'm saying that Marcus Chen has been marked for death by a specific terrorist cell, and they've been planning operations designed to draw him into kill zones, Elena explained. The village was supposed to be a trap that would eliminate him and send a message to other coalition medical personnel. Marcus felt the weight of this revelation settling on him. His work saving lives had apparently made him a target for those who wanted to take lives. But looking at Elena, seeing the pain and determination in her eyes, he realized something else. You saved my life, he said quietly. By being there, by warning us, you saved my life and the lives of my team. Elena nodded. That's what soldiers do for each other. We watch each other's backs. No matter what. Agent Collins closed her notebook. Captain Vasquez, we're going to need a full debrief. Everything you know about enemy operations, personnel, and capabilities. You'll have it, Elena replied. But first, you need to authorize the extraction of my people. Every hour we wait increases their chances of being discovered and executed. As the group prepared to leave for the full intelligence briefing, Marcus remained beside Elena's bed. There was something he needed to say. Captain, what you did, sacrificing your cover to warn us, that took incredible courage. Elena looked at him with tired eyes. Marcus, after what I've seen and been through, the only thing that matters is making sure good people make it home to their families. That's worth any sacrifice. Marcus nodded, understanding completely. In the complex world of military operations and intelligence gathering, sometimes the most important victories were measured not in enemy casualties or territory gained, but in the simple fact that good people lived to fight another day. As they wheeled Elena to the debriefing room, Marcus realized that this wounded woman, who had appeared to be just another civilian casualty, had turned out to be something much more important. She was a reminder of why they were all there, fighting so far from home. Sometimes the most unlikely heroes emerged from the most desperate circumstances, proving that courage and loyalty could survive even the darkest trials.